Today's lesson is to write an equation in point-slope form. The point-slope form of an equation is y minus y1 is equal to m times the quantity x minus x1. M is equal to our slope, and x1, y1 are a given point on the graph of the equation. Why do we need to know this form? Well, there's really two reasons that I can come up with. The first one is, if you're given an equation in this form and asked to graph it, it becomes pretty easy. The second reason is if you're given 2 points and asked to find the equation for a line between them, it's easier to write it in point-slope form than y-intercept form, and we'll see why in a minute. Let's look at the first one. If you're given an equation in this form and asked to graph it, it's easy. Here's an equation, y minus 3 is equal to 2 times the quantity x minus 1. It is in point-slope form, and in order to graph a line, we need to know at least one point and the slope. So if you look at the equation, our coordinate for one point is going to be 1, 3, x1, y1. Now you do have to be careful here and notice that it's minus here. It's not plus. So in this case, if we had, for example, y plus 3, the coordinate would be 1 and negative 3. Remember, it's kind of the opposite you have to think of, and keep that in mind. So the one point that's going to be on the line is going to be 1, 3, and then we need to find the slope. The slope is going to match up to m. It's in the same form, so our slope is going to be 2. In order to graph this, you're going to go to the point 1, 3, and then use your rise over run, move up 2 boxes and over 1. So your graph should look like this. Okay, here we are at 3, 1, and we go up 2 over 1. Draw a line connecting the 2 dots. The other reason is if you're given 2 points and asked to find the equation for a line between them, it's easier to write it in point-slope form than in y-intercept form. Here's 2 points, negative 3, 4, 2, negative 1. In order to find the slope, we would use our slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When we do the math, we end up with negative 5 over 5, which is equal to negative 1. So now we have the slope. Here's the format we can put it in, our slope form, and we're going to substitute in 4 and negative 3. One of our points, again, was negative 3, 4. We could also use 2 and negative 1 if we want, and we'll get the same results. M, our slope, was negative 1. Since I used negative 3, 4, we end up with x minus negative 3. We don't want to leave it like that. And we also don't have to write negative 1 in front of the parentheses. Instead, you want to clean it up a little bit and put in y minus 4 is equal to negative parentheses x plus 3, close parenthesis. And you have the equation of a line. What did we not have to find that makes this easier? Were you able to come up with it yet? We didn't have to figure out what b was, the y-intercept. If we were writing this equation in slope-intercept form, we'd have to first find our slope, which is what we did in the first few steps. Then we'd have to take the slope, put it into y equals whatever our slope number was, in this case negative 1 times x plus b. We'd then have to take one of the points and plug it in our x and our y and solve for b. So this does make it a little bit easier. Point slope is very like another equation that you are familiar with, or you better be by now. My hint was on the previous page. If you can show me how the two equations are similar In other words, change one equation to look like the other, showing your work. You can get extra credit on your next quiz. However, you must turn in a paper with your name on it tomorrow, proving to me that you know why they are similar or how one can change into the other. So in other words, show your work. And I will give you one more hint. That's your hint. Here's point slope form. Here's another very similar common equation that you should be familiar with. Give it a